Hey, what's going on? This is Troy, and this is the Planet 76 podcast, your source for Sixers news, highlights, hot takes, and more. Welcome to the show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Planet 76. Michael and Troy are back together for this episode 131. An interesting episode, Michael. There's a lot that has transpired in Sixers world over the last couple weeks, even in the last couple hours. Just some updates, and we're gonna have it all. We're recording Sunday night, the 4th, late, and so some major news regarding Embiid has come out today, and then just some updates and our take on everything that's gone on. It has been a whirlwind, I feel like, of a couple weeks. Why don't we just get your initial thoughts on what it's been like as a Sixers fan, as a owner of a healthy and wealthy Sixers Instagram page, and then a podcaster on the Sixers? Like, what's your deal here, huh? What's your take?
I mean, it's been a lot. You kind of said it, but I definitely haven't watched as much Sixers as I would have liked, or that not as much as I have wanted to. But what I can say is that there's been a lot going on. I mean, started off really well, started off super hot. One of the hottest teams in the league in terms of winning, in terms of scoring, in terms of just pace. This was one of the fastest teams in the league. They led the league in offensive rating for a decent chunk of the season to start, and things have just not looked great. I think they've only won one game in their past 7, honestly. That's not great, and yes, they've been missing some big pieces, so that's some very much needed context for this whole Sixers skid, if you will. And a lot of those, I mean, these guys have been big. They've missed Batum for a few games. They've missed Harris. They missed Maxey twice. Obviously, they haven't really had Embiid for the better part of 2 weeks now, because even though he did play against Golden State, he just
shouldn't have.
No, he should not have played. Did not play against Denver last Saturday. We're recording on Sunday. So there's definitely some context to this, again, Sixers skid. But it doesn't make it any better, because you don't want to see this team sliding like this. I think they're now 5th in the East, or close to, or tied for 5th in the East, which, again, they were 3rd. They were creeping up on the 2nd seed just a few weeks ago, and here they are with the 5th seed in the East. Now, obviously, it's not time for panic. It's February. There's still 2.5-ish months left of the season, depending on who you ask, and depending on who you are, and when the season, when that time of the season comes. Certain teams decide to play differently depending on where they're at in the standings, depending on where they're at in the playoff race, things like that. But there's still time, and again, we're going to get into more of the Embiid injury. Obviously, news was announced tonight that he's going to miss time, which we all knew. We all knew he was going to miss time after the report came out a few days ago that it was a tear, which I still think, and many others do think, that it is still a tear. It just maybe was information that was not supposed to come out quite yet, or maybe it was information that they still weren't quite sure of, but now they are, and they're just trying to maybe keep things under wraps as much as they can with, again, the gargantuan announcement that Embiid is injured, and it is a meniscus injury. So there's still time, and I think we should proceed with caution, because I don't know how many games this team can reliably win and consistently win without Joel Embiid in the lineup for, again, this extended period of time. I don't know what the trade deadline is going to look like. We can talk about that if you like, Troy, as well.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what the deadline is going to look like for this team come Thursday, February 8th, I believe, is when the deadline is. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with the Sixers regarding the roster, regarding, again, how many games are they going to win? What's their record going to be like without Embiid for the next 20 games, 30 games? At this point,
who knows? Yeah.
What is going to happen? We don't know. But we're going to do our best on Planet 76 to make what we can of all of this. So Troy, just yeah, let me
That's
hear it.
exactly right. As much as like we've talked about the trade deadline in the last few weeks on this podcast, last month or two even, like I completely forgot like that was Thursday. Like that's here. And all this news regarding Embiid comes at an interesting time. Will something happen? We don't know. But anyway, the official news, obviously Joel Embiid will have a corrective procedure this week to address an injury to the lateral meniscus in his left knee. Embiid's surgery will address a displaced flap of the meniscus, and he will be sidelined for an extended period of time. That is what we know. Regardless of what we knew last week or 2 weeks ago about any injury, that is what we know now for Joel Embiid, is that he will miss an extended period of time. There will be more to come on what that might look like, in a week or two. But this is the news we're given, Michael, and that's, kind of like you said, we're going to do what we can with what we got. Obviously a huge piece of news. He was, frankly, on track for his second MVP, back-to-back, another scoring title. He's averaging 35 or something a game. It's amazing, and you feel for him, obviously, first and foremost, and the hope is that he can, whatever time, again, I said that earlier when you were talking about the Golden State game, like he just didn't look right going out there and playing in that game. And then Kuminga falls on his leg, or kind of a fluke play, and I don't even know if like that was connected to the injury that he already had. Like I don't know if you know that, but I would guess it's all just kind of a jumbled mess between the knee injury he had and then that happening and him being on the floor a little too soon, it appeared. So, anywho, that's the big news. But I did, I talked to Michael before we recorded. I was like, why don't we just do what we can with what we got? Let's play a little good news, bad news, and ugly news, given the Sixers situation as of late. Because while that might be the bad and the ugly or whatever, like there's some good news regarding the Sixers right now, even though they are, like you said, losers of 5 out of 6. They did have it's interesting. They lost 3 in a row early January. They went off and won 6 in a row to get to 29-13. Things were looking up. Things were looking beautiful. Then they dropped 5 out of 6 and all this news, and they're sitting at 38-18 and 5th in the Eastern Conference. A lot can happen over the course of 2 weeks, and nothing has happened to any other team more so than the Sixers over the last couple weeks. But we will start with the good news. Michael, I need good news. Why don't you give me some good news? Find it somewhere on this team right now where we sit.
Good news for the Sixers. Right now, it doesn't look like there's much good news for this team.
You got to find something.
But
find something.
If something, I will choose Maxey because I feel as though no matter what's going on, he's a bright spot for this team. And especially in light of his 51 points the other night against Utah. Career high, 7 of 9 from 3. I really if there's one aspect of his game that I really like to think about / analyze the most, it's his 3-point shooting. And specifically, the volume. I've talked about it before, maybe not on this podcast, but he's taking almost 9 threes a game. That's Steph Curry levels of volume. I don't think people understand how crazy that is. And he's shooting almost 40% on said 9 threes per game. Unheard of. Unbelievable. So, if there's one bright spot, and Nick Batum, sure. But
okay,
Tyrese Maxey, you can never really, or I'm sorry, there's always probably going to be a bright spot with Maxey, no matter what's going on with this team, because he just shows up. He just hoops every night. He just comes to play. He doesn't make any excuses. And he's excited to be there. It's refreshing. Maybe not refreshing, but it's just nice to see. So I would say my bright spot is Tyrese Maxey. I think I'm comfortable saying that.
Okay. Yeah, and he was he was obviously out for the whole Embiid thing is overshadowing even all that the Sixers have been through over the last few weeks with injuries and illnesses and I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's been out at one point,
Yeah.
and I don't know that the illness bug has hit the Sixers like this, since it was the 76ers literally playing the COVID year.
Oh.
Um, when we had guys who were off the couch like playing for this team, like this is almost that level of what's
Yeah.
been going on lately. But yeah, Tyrese Maxey definitely is the good news. I'll take a similar approach. I'll go with the player as well. I'm going to go with Tobias Harris, kind of a two-part approach as to the good news even in this circumstance. The good news is Tobias Harris' last two games, very good. 26 against Golden State in the loss, and then 28 against Utah, 13 of 21 from the field. Didn't make a three, but still had 28. 7 assists, 5 boards, a steal, and a block to go along with that. So I say it's good news because of the last two games, what he's done, but I also think it's good news in the sense all right, Tobias, you're here for a reason. We know the cards that we've been dealt. We know Embiid's going to be out for a while. Not that that's good news, but the good news is Tobias Harris now has an opportunity to shine. Tobias Harris now has an opportunity to look for his shot a whole lot more. Tobias Harris has an opportunity to show that he's worth or close to worth the contract that he's getting every year over the last few years for the Sixers. And he's a very, very good NBA player, but now he has a chance to play a bigger role for an extended period of time. We've seen him play a bigger role when Embiid's been out for a game here or two, here or there, a couple games, but now he is in a position to take the second most shots on the team every night, or the most shots on the team, depending on how well Tyrese Maxey's playing. So it's all going to depend on, the Embiid situation, if he's out for the year, if he's out for a really long time. We shall see, but I think Tobias Harris is one of the other aspects of a good news, and just the situation that he has himself in now is good for him, and good opportunity for him. All right. Michael, you got some bad news, and you can take the one we've already touched on. I think that's the glaring bad news if you want it. Joel Embiid, is that your bad news?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's easy to be negative about the Sixers. Very easy, and I know that a lot of people watching and listening to this can attest to that. But the obvious thing is the Embiid injury. There's a lot of
Yep.
things we can say that are bad. They're losing, they're getting other guys hurt, their bench doesn't look great because of those players being hurt. But the Embiid injury really causes a ripple effect. And obviously, in terms of the Sixers winning their chances of competing in the East in the playoff time, but more so what they're going to do now. What do they do now? There's a gargantuan gap in the roster, literally and metaphorically. Literally because he's huge, he's 7 feet tall. Metaphorically, again, because, he does leave a big spot open in the roster because of the things he does on the court. What are they going to do? I don't know. I wish I knew. This definitely changes how they approach the deadline. Daryl Morey is very smart. We talked about him in length on this podcast. We we know this, and you know this if you're listening. You know this if you're watching. I don't know. It's again, the theme for this episode is uncertainty. We are in a stretch of time for this team where things are very uncertain. Things are very bleak. I don't know if I say that. I sound kind of like a nerd, but there's uncertainty for this team. There's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea what's going to happen for the next 15, 20, 25, 30 games. We're talking beginning of April before we really see a full team back. Because without Embiid, you're missing so much on both ends of the floor. You're missing so much, and I don't know how they're going to make up for that. I don't think you can. You can. You can. A trade cannot make up for that. The Sixers are going to have to play totally above their pay grade for the next couple months and just go out and win games that they probably have no business winning. That's how they're going to stay afloat, because the problem now becomes, do the Sixers fall to the play-in? I don't want to think about that, but it's something that we should at least think about or consider or just glance at. Hey, maybe the Sixers fall in the play-in. Then what? Then what happens? If you don't have Embiid for the play-in, you lose. You're not even making the playoffs at that point. That's scary. Won't think too much about it because I don't want to get scared. But these are the things that we have to just be aware of. What is going to happen to this team? Are they going to fall to the play-in? 6 seed? 7 seed? How far down the East are they going to slide? We don't know. And the next few episodes of us here on Planet 76 are going to be exploring that. We're going to see this unfold in real time. We're going to see this happen and say, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what they can address. The deadline's in 4 days. That's going to be pretty big as to what the Sixers are going to be able to do and the flexibility that they're going to have moving forward without Embiid.
Yes. All right. Why you have to be such a Debbie Downer? That is bad news. But anyway, yeah. I mean, Joel Embiid and I like how you got into just what comes as a result of that. I mean, that's bad, and it's bad right now. It could be bad coming in the next few weeks. But my bad news, I think it's similar in a sense. It's just the fact that we've talked a lot about the Sixers' depth, and they have a lot of pieces that they can throw out there, and we've seen that. And as good a games as like Springer has had, recently, and Korkmaz has gotten some minutes and played well, and Marcus Morris has had his moments, Nicholas Batum has had his moments. As good as some of those role players, Kelly Oubre, like we can go on and on and on. Paul Reed had 30 the other night, right? Like what? But the bad news is, as much as we can talk about this team's depth, just like you said, doesn't really matter right now because you don't have Joel Embiid. So the bad news is like, even with all their injuries outside of Embiid, it's bad because they're as good as their depth is. It's not good enough to overcome the injuries and everything that they're being faced with right now. So that's bad news. Now let's. You probably already touched on some ugly, but and I'll start with my ugly, and then I'll toss it to you. My ugly news right now is something you just hit on a bit. Is the Eastern Conference standings, where it sits right now. So if you peek at the standings in the East, it was a 3-team race up top: Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers. It is not the case anymore. At least right now, it's not. Celtics still keep winning. They're 38-12. Though they have dropped three recently at home. I don't know about 3 in a row, but 3 recently at home. Milwaukee's 33-17. But the Bucks, Cavs, Knicks, and Sixers are all now within 2 games of the loss column. You got the Cavs 31-16, Knicks 32-18, and the Sixers have fallen to 30-18, sitting at the 5 seed. But could they fall some more? We don't know. But again, right now, if playoffs started today, they're a 5 seed. They don't even have home court advantage in the first round, and they have to play a red-hot Knicks team if the playoffs started today. That is ugly news, okay? And that's just the situation we're in. So that's my ugly news. What about you?
Well, I thought that was the ugly, what I said before, because that's pretty ugly.
I don't know how you top that, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'll just kind of group them together because I don't know how you get worse than what I said. I just don't. It's not gonna be easy. I mean, we know that, obviously, but I just don't know what this team's gonna do. We've seen the way they've played without Embiid this year, not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that is a sign of what they're going to be like without Embiid moving forward, because at least now they'll know so they could prepare more. Okay, we're going to be without Embiid for a long stretch of time. Let's think about certain scenarios where we specifically struggle without Embiid on the floor on both ends of the floor and game plan a little better and decide who can help make up for what Embiid brings. Now, disclaimer, you can't. You can't make up for what Embiid brings, but you can try to fill in the gaps as much as possible. The Sixers have great personnel in terms of guys who can score. You know, that's a team effort now. Like, scoring is going to be a team effort now. You don't have Embiid to give you 25, 35, 40 a night. You're going to need help there. But scoring is now going to be a team effort. Defense is going to be, I mean, you're taking a huge hit defensively. Embiid is the best defender on the team by miles, and I don't know if anybody really comes close. Oh my gosh, this is not gonna be fun. This is gonna really have to be team basketball. The Sixers obviously are playing team basketball before, but it's gonna be it's gonna have to be way more team oriented now. Guys are going to have to step up very, very big. Oubre, Batum, Covington, if he's still here. Morris, if he's still here past the deadline. Beverly, Melton, need Melton back yesterday. What is he doing? I don't know. He needs to come back. Maxi's going to have to be huge. Maxi's the number one option. Now, this is massive. He has the keys. He's going to have to really perform even more so than he was before. This is gonna have to be a huge team effort. Like, this team can't get away with being mediocre as a team. They can't get away with being mediocre because they have Embiid to cover for them. This is them. All eyes are on these guys. Maxey, Melton, Oubre, Reed, even. Harris. I forgot to mention Harris. He's the second option now. All eyes are on him. I'm watching Harris. What is he doing? Is he giving you 25 a night? He can. Is he doing that? Is he shooting the ball well? Is he defending well? Is he not taking dumb shots? Is he being decisive? That all matters times 10 now. It mattered before, but it matters way more now. All this stuff adds into the Sixers are going to have to play team basketball, even more so than before. Even more than when they had Embiid. Because, again, you don't have Embiid to do 60% of what the team needs from on both ends of the floor. Scoring, defense, just a presence, big presence, literally and metaphorically. You don't have that. So this is going to be massive for the Sixers.
Yeah. So you touched on some ugly. You touched on some hope, though, and I kind of like that because I don't know why this. Forgive me for what came to my head when you were kind of making that transition from ugly to a little bit of hope. I thought of, like, 8th grade, and you got braces, you got glasses, and then you come back from summer vacation, 9th grade, and you got contacts on. Braces are gone. Things are looking up. That's just what I thought of, and you transition into something beautiful. That's what the Sixers are trying to do right now but there is much truth to what you said. I've seen it time and time again in all sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer. Like, when there's someone down, out, and they're gone for an extended period of time, you said it, that, like, that, and that makes a difference, because if it was sitting here, like sometimes it is, and Embiid's questionable every single night, he might go, he might not, and then he ends up playing, and then he ends up not playing, and but now it's like, okay, we know what we got. Doesn't make it easy, but we know what we got. We know who has to step up. You and I both have already hit on Tobias Harris. This is an opportunity for him. This is an opportunity for Paul Reed. And again, let's get everybody else healthy. Like, I mean, losing Embiid is more than enough. Like, let's just get everybody else right. Let's get Melton back in. I mean, the starting lineup the other day was what? Beverly, House, Oubre, Reed. Let's just get the boys back together as much as we can and try to stay afloat. Again, we don't know. We're dealing with what we know. We don't know what's going to come soon. But what we do know is Embiid's going to be out for a while. Obviously, we hope that means he can come back for the playoffs, but we don't know that that's true. I mean, the season ends in 2.5 months. Last regular season game's April 14th. Like, this thing is almost at the end of the regular season. This guy's about to have surgery on his knee in, early February. So that's not good news. We already touched on that in the bad news section. Anyway, that was Planet 76, episode 131. Good news, bad news, and ugly news. And as Michael did so beautifully, there is a chance for some hope, even in the ugly. And we'll be along for the ride with you guys on Planet 76. We'll see you next time. You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. Whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.